hit it.
Well, hi, everyone, and welcome to Alzheimer Speaks Radio. I'm your host, Lori LeBay, and I'm so excited that you're joining us today. We are going to have a fascinating conversation, as usual, as we learn from people all around the world at all ages and stages of life. Stay tuned as we shift our dementia care from crisis to comfort.
Here we go. What you think about, you will bring about the mental change. We will.
Well, hi, everyone. Welcome to Alzheimer Speaks Radio. I am Lori LeBay, and I'm thrilled that you're with us today. If you liked our opening song, it's called Clarion Call by the Mark Arneson Band, and I encourage you to go ahead and download that on any of your favorite music platforms. For those of you that are new, Alzheimer Speaks is about sound information, not just sound bites. We like to have real conversations with real people making a difference in the world of dementia. We launched Alzheimer Speaks in 2011, and we just love sharing and connecting people to new services, products, and tools. And we're going to do just that today by talking with Maude's Awards. So before I introduce you to everybody, I always like to give a few shout outs. So again, if you haven't checked out Dementia Map, please do so. We have put that together as a global resource, and there's lots of things in there. We have like 150 categories, and it is growing every single day. If you have a service, product, or tool, we would love you to list yours. You can have a free listing, or you can do an enhanced listing. And for those of you looking for resources, products, and tools, you don't have to sign in. There's no password. It's just easy access, because I know what it feels like to be a care partner looking for information. And there's a lot more resources out there than we know of. Things like the Memory Cafe directory and Coral Health, who's allowing people to download 2 of their apps free, Saltbox TV, Zinnia TV. The list just goes on. Books, we recognize the ALZ authors, and so many more. So go to dementiamap.com and check that out. I also want to give a shout out to Arthur's Senior Care. They have been so wonderful in sponsoring Arthur's Memory Cafe, which I've been doing for years now. And we meet virtually the second and fourth Wednesday of each month during the pandemic at 1:00 Central, and anybody is welcome to join us. Also in person, Brookdale North Oaks is sponsoring a caregiver Connect support group, and we meet in person the last Wednesday of each month at 10 o'clock, and anyone is welcome to come. Again, that's in Shoreview, Minnesota. Let's see. I still love this project. It's called the Brain Donor Project. Check it out. They're looking for brains. They need our brains for research, both those that are diseased and those that aren't. And don't forget to mark your calendars for November 2nd, where you can participate in Together for Dementia, which is sponsored by the Dementia Research Charity Brace. We're going to hear from the Footbar Walker, and then we'll be right back.
Introducing the life-changing Footbar Walker.
I'm Peggy from Danville, Kentucky, and I'm 91 years old. The Footbar Walker revolutionized my care of George. It absolutely benefits the patient and the caregiver both, and that's the beauty of it. It's so easy to use. It folds up just like a dream. I got it in and out of the car without any effort at all. The saving that I made from having to put him in a nursing home came to about $192,000.
Does someone you love use a walker? Do they struggle to get up from a seated position? Are you a caregiver dealing with physical pain and stress as you help your patient? The Footbar Walker was designed to assist not only the patient, but also the caregiver. Patients have more control standing up, and no lifting from the caregiver is required. See how it works at thefootbarwalker.com. That's thefootbarwalker.com. Peggy, would you recommend the Footbar Walker?
Do I ever? I would not be in the health that I'm in today at this age had it not been for the Footbar Walker.
Okay, we're back, and it's time to introduce our guests. Again, today our topic is going to be covering Maude's Awards. under the organizational category, and we're going to talk with one of those winners. Well, as I said earlier, I'm so excited to introduce you to these ladies today. This is a really exciting time. So first, I'm going to introduce you to Marilyn Raichle. She is the executive director of Maude's Awards. And for those of you that haven't heard about that, we're going to talk about that. This is an exciting time because we're going to be talking about the winners and how they've gone through that process and how important that is. Marilyn was also a care partner for her parents. And so she gets this. She gets this whole process of Alzheimer's and dementia. And in 2015, she was really inspired by her mother's newfound artistic ability that she found in the art of Alzheimer's. And so she's really learned to celebrate that creativity. And today's show is going to kind of amplify that because we're going to go down another area of creativity in the art. So welcome, Marilyn. How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm fine. It's very nice to be here.
Wonderful. And so we're going to talk with one of the Maude's Awards winners today, and that is Eileen Branton. And she is with Giving Voice. And this is something that's near and dear to my heart because actually it started in Minnesota here, and I have all kinds of stories to tell. So I'm really excited that they were picked. In 2017, she has been really instrumental in the growth of the organization there. And since just in starting in 2021, she became the executive director. And so she's really been working on creating this unique and innovative opportunity and to expand their mission worldwide and, give local choruses this opportunity to pull together with people with dementia and their care partners. So again, Eileen, welcome. I can't wait to help you share your story because it's fascinating.
Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here, first and foremost as a recipient of the Maude's Award, which is just an incredible honor. And then also just to get a chance to talk with both of you and share the work of Giving Voice.
Well, I always start out every show asking just for a little base in terms of, have you been touched by dementia in your own family or circle of friends? And so, Eileen, I'm going to go ahead and throw that to you first. And, have you experienced this within your own family or circle of friends?
I have. I have a wonderful father who is a musician and has been his entire life. And so my life was touched by music, as early as I can remember. I remember falling asleep to, the sounds of a mandolin when I was a very small child. And my dad's been living with Parkinson's and Lewy body dementia for about 15 years. And when we got to the point where we needed to talk about, more care or, what were the next steps, my husband and I and my 3 kids decided that we would move him in with us. And I joined the sandwich generation. So the generation of people that are caregiving for smaller children as well as their parents. And there are so many wonderful things about being able to expose your family to, that multi-generational living, but it also comes with a lot of stress. Being a caregiver is hard. And one of the things that I noticed right away is that the outlets for my dad to experience, music and be creative and find a passion for what he had always loved, but in a way that was accessible to him as someone living with cognitive decline and having, limited access to things. It just really, there wasn't a lot of options. And so when I came across Giving Voice, not only did I feel like there was a good fit for my family, but I also thought, I want to join this team, and the rest has been history.
Wow. Well, that's a cool story. And I can appreciate the sandwich generation because I did some of that myself. And, dementia is a really weird package, but it does have beautiful gifts wrapped inside. You just have to look for them. So thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. Marilyn, how about you? Why don't you give us a little snippet of your story?
Well, it's interesting because I was seeing Mother through a prism of loss. And she had told us, when we get Alzheimer's, walk away. We're not going to remember you. So go live your life and forget about us. And we all sort of felt that way. And then Mom began to paint, and suddenly, instead of seeing her through a prism of loss, we were experiencing happiness, and everything changed. I suddenly was able to see who was there. And that's when I became a true care partner. And it really started our journey of 8 years of really discovering who Mom was and rediscovering her. And it helped me and made me think that if I knew then what I know now, my journey with Dad would have been so much better. I could have helped him so much more. And he had Parkinson's and the beginning of Alzheimer's. So it's been this really long journey of discovery, and I am exceedingly lucky that I was able to take that with me.
Well, I love that you use the word care partner too, because I think it really does, once you're able to find that joy, you shift from being a caregiver and task oriented to really be in that relationship and be a care partner or a care companion. And to me, that's like magic fairy dust. When you hit that piece. Marilyn, why don't you tell us what is Maude's Award and how did it come about?
Well, this is a journey that Richard Ferry and Maude Ferry began. And they lived what could be called the American dream. He was a successful business executive. He was the co-founder of Korn Ferry International, and she was his silent partner, his goodwill ambassador, mother of 6, grandmother of 12, and now great-grandmother of 4 and counting. And as he would put it, she was the wind beneath his wings. And when he became her primary care partner, like so many people, he had no idea what to do. And so he kept reading and searching and looking, and learned a lot, but kept looking for ways to bring joy and happiness to her life. And he couldn't find a lot. This was a long time ago. And so he decided he would start Maude's Awards. And this is giving monetary awards for achievements for innovations in Alzheimer's care. And this is 3 $25,000 awards to organizations and 5,000 awards to individuals. And we're in our second year now. We've just about to announce all of the recipients. And I am so incredibly honored to be a part of this. It's really been a continuation of my journey.
Well, the whole family is such a blessing in the organization to so many. And one of the things, that stood out to me in terms of you talking is here's a man and his family who've been very blessed, economically strong. And dementia doesn't care. They don't care who you are. You still get thrown to the back of the bus without a clue of how to handle anything. And so, it really evens the playing field. And I am so honored and hold so much respect for Richard for stepping up and going, man, I get this. If I can't figure this out with my resources, how the heck are other people? And to raise the creativity, because I think that is so needed, and to help people connect the dots, because there's so many different ways to be able to approach this disease. Why don't you tell us about the awards themselves? What were people, were there categories people were applying for?
Yeah, there's one category called Making Connections, which is how you can connect people, bring people together, really speak to their creativity. And that is the category in which we find Giving Voice Initiative. There is Cultivating Health, how people can actually increase the health and well-being of persons living with dementia. There is Supporting Care Partners, which is hugely important. Programs that actually provide respite and ideas and support for care partners. And then Treating by Design, which is how can you create physical environments that actually support people and make life easier for people living with dementia. So those are the 4 categories. And I might also add that while he gives these financial rewards to people, it's also important to him that he share all of these innovations with as many people as possible.
That's critical, because you can't keep these nuggets to yourself, or we're defeating our purpose. Now, is there constraints in terms of when people win these awards, what they can do with the funds?
We have no constraints whatsoever. We start the applications open in March, and we make the announcement in the fall, and there is no strings attached.
Very rare. Very rare do you see money coming your way with no attachments or expectations. So
Right.
that is huge in and of itself. So, giving recognition for a good job done is way more than a pat on the back, with Maude's awards. So that's pretty.
And they aren't grants for ideas that you want to implement. These are for achievements.
Yep. And that is something that we don't see all that often. I mean, usually it's the grant process and the criteria and, putting it all together. That's a big difference that I think people need to be aware of. Has Richard used any of the innovations that were submitted?
Well, one of the great gifts of Maude's Awards is for every stage in the development of the disease. And so as the years have gone by, he has been looking. And when we first started, he read every single thing. I don't know that all of them are, he sings to her every single night. And so with Giving Voice, it was like, and so it was just an affirmation of that. He has been, so he's very inspired by Giving Voice. He's also been really inspired by the people you'll be talking with later. He has been introduced me to Nana's books, which are, which my mother would have loved because she loved to read. She wasn't actually reading them, but I always saw her with books in front of her, and she would have loved the pictures. So he has been largely inspired by all of the innovations that have come our way, and he reads them all and takes what he can out of all of them. So I would say he tries to get nuggets from everything.
Okay. What is different this year about the award versus last year?
Oh, well, last year, because we had just begun and we were well known in the Pacific Northwest, 90% of the applications were from the Pacific Northwest. And so that was the abundance, almost all of the winners. This year completely flipped. Over 90% of the applications were from all over the country and very few from the Pacific Northwest. And so that was the big change.
I like that because there is so much going on, and I hear over and over people think, there's not very many resources, and there's a lot more resources out there than we know. And, it's just important to be able to get that out. Well, let me go and pull Eileen in, and let's hear a little bit more about, what it was the inspiration behind Giving Voice. How the heck did it start and why?
Yeah, well, so Giving Voice has two phenomenal co-founders, Mary Leonard and Marge Ostrushko, who were longtime friends and also women that were living with parents that were living with Alzheimer's, and that they knew that they wanted to do something to support this Alzheimer's journey. And Mary was reading the paper one day and saw an article that talked about this study that said the headline was Alzheimer's brains are boosted by singing the songs from The Sound of Music. And for some reason it caught her eye, and she read the study and realized that there is just a powerful relationship between the brain and where music is stored. And, people with Alzheimer's, often that's the last part of the brain to be affected by the disease. And so the ability for people to hold on to that music memory, and more importantly, use that music memory to bring out feelings of joy and increased well-being. There was huge potential there. So they got together and said, we're going to do this. We're going to start a choir. And that's how Giving Voice was born. So it started with one pilot chorus in the Twin Cities area with 35 people that were pulled together, from kind of all areas of the community. And now 6 years later, we have developed programs that we've grown, we've adapted to, the pandemic, and we're still so focused on how we can bring joy and well-being to people through this choral community, but also how can we bring this type of choral community to other parts of the country, other parts of the world, and really support this worldwide movement. So Giving Voice is at this point, we're much more than just a choir, but everything that we do is focused around the people that sing with us every week and the way in which they teach us how to, best put this community together and continue this movement. So we're really fortunate that our two co-founders said, let's do it. Let's start a choir because, there was a need for it.
Oh, there definitely was a need. And I love that you mentioned music memory, because I think that's something that is very overlooked. Music is something so common in our life. It's one of those things we don't necessarily appreciate to its core until you run into a situation like this, when you lose the ability to connect and to communicate, and it lightens the load for people. The other thing I love when you talked about it being a movement, because it truly is, it's a whole educational experience of growing awareness. And I've had many people in my memory cafes and different dementia-friendly communities that I work with, participate in this. And what I hear from them is from the care partner saying, oh my gosh, they're so happy. They absolutely love going to this. They feel purposeful, and they feel like they're building a peer group once again. I think a lot of them that I know have sung in church choirs and haven't been able to do that. And this allows them to have that gift back. And I think back to even my mom in the nursing home, they had a little choir that, went around from floor to floor. And she just perked right up, when she could be part of that. And, I just see them filled with purpose and filled with pride. And when the concerts come up, they can't push them out enough. And then they're shocked at how many people show up. They're like, oh, you wouldn't believe they're huge crowds, on these things. And you can just see their chests heaving, both the person with dementia and their care partner. They just get so much out of this. And so I'm glad that this is a movement that you really want to bring worldwide. The other thing that I think is really important with this is it helps people focus on the importance of that social connection, which I think for years was really overlooked in terms of research and the power of it. And I know for myself, I think that's why my mom lived 30 years with the disease, is she was socially connected. And so kudos to you guys. So you said this started 6 years ago. Can you tell us kind of how you've grown during those 6 years?
Yeah, absolutely. So, we started with, like I said, one choir, 35 members, and have now grown to, we have 3 choirs in the Twin Cities area that Giving Voice runs, let's say. We kind of call them our learning labs, in the sense that it's so important for us to be connected with the day-to-day of this music and this experience, and really, learn and grow from that. But we also have worked to grow other courses that we have really strong partnerships with in the Twin Cities area. So in addition to the 3 that are called Giving Voice, we've worked with other parts of the Twin Cities area to make sure that we have an understanding of what this type of experience can be in the Latinx community, as well as, looking at some of the historic Black churches in the community and saying, how can we bring this type of experience to these communities that's in an authentic way. So really forging partnerships and asking a lot of questions about how we can, meet to talk about how Alzheimer's is looked at in the community and how we can grow a program that incorporates music and a sense of community to, change stigma around Alzheimer's and bring joy and well-being. But in addition, we decided that replication of the choir was something that we were really, really interested in, but we knew that we couldn't bring our model to every community that may need it, because honestly, every community could have some sort of an outlet like this. And so in 2016, we developed a toolkit, which was a 40-page document that kind of identified all of the things that a community may need to start their own giving voice like chorus. And so talking about everything from how you may, find a strategic partner, to repertoire choices, to engaging volunteers. And we put that out there as an effort to start what we called, our worldwide movement, to say that, this is something that, belongs everywhere. And we wanted to help people find that. So the idea that our work is open source and it is, free to anyone that wants to sort of, try this out or walk this path, we wanted to be there to support them. So we developed a toolkit. It was widely adopted. We had, choirs that were sort of springing up in all parts of the country, and decided that our next step was to really make sure that we were a convener and an educator. And the best way to do that was to follow a model of, that we're all learners and we're inclusive. And so we developed a learning community. And so we brought all of these choirs together virtually to say, how do we best, use our shared common knowledge to support this movement? And in 2017, we had our first national gathering in partnership with the Mayo Clinic. And we have been kind of growing that learning community ever since. And with the pandemic, we were really reliant on each other to support these major program changes when we could no longer get together, and sing in person. And it's really developed a thriving network of people that are now learning how to do all of this virtually. And really sort of expanding upon what we can do as a virtual community. So those are some ways in which Giving Voice has grown and changed. But, we also are, we're strong advocates for Alzheimer's awareness in lots of different ways, whether it's trying to work on legislation in our, in our state of Minnesota, or, really working on partnering with education opportunities with, anything from like, a nursing school, or, working with our neighboring, churches to promote Alzheimer's awareness. We're really seeing ourselves as an organization that can change the narrative, piece by piece, and help people see that living well with Alzheimer's is really possible. This choir is just one of the ways that we can really support, that change. And so we kind of see the future as really big and really exciting.
Oh, for sure. One of the things that I loved, you talked about the, reaching out to the different communities. So the Asian population, the Spanish and African American, those are areas, and communities that has been really difficult to win over their trust. And this might be a really nice, fun way to be able to build that up and connect and change that scenario, because I know there's been a lot of time and energy trying to break through to those communities. And music is powerful in every culture. And so, twisting and turning that to meet their needs just seems like a natural place to build trust and raise awareness to boot. Do you have you must have like a zillion favorite stories, but do you have a couple of your top stories that you could share with us in terms of reactions from families?
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. There are a million. Can I share 3 short ones?
Absolutely. Okay.
So we're a family. So we get to know all of our singers. And one of the absolute, best parts of what we do is, recognizing everyone's humanness, so when we're up on the stage singing, you can't tell who has Alzheimer's and who doesn't, we're all singing. So I participate in one of our choirs here in the Twin Cities, and there was a mother-daughter duet, so partnership, that would come every week. And the mother, Evelyn, was in her 90s, and she was, she has been passed, but she was just an absolute joy to have in the choir. And as she was progressing in the disease, her daughter was saying, gosh, it's getting harder for me to get mom out the door and whatnot. But she said that every day when she would wake up, she would ask her daughter, is today the day we sing?
Mm-hmm.
And that was something that always made her excited to get up and get going. And I just thought, wow, that's just so special, because even when you may not, the connection to, we're going to this place and we're gonna, practice this repertoire. But the idea that every day she recognized that she wanted to sing, the power of singing. So that's one of my favorite. Another is we had a volunteer who was singing with a friend. So we do rely on some absolute fantastic volunteers to really support our program, because we really want it to be an experience for the participants that they, let's say it's a husband and a wife. We want to make sure the husband can sit with the tenors if he's a tenor, and the wife can sit with the soprano. So we really do rely on some fabulous volunteers just to make sure that, everyone is getting what they need when they sing. And so we had a volunteer that shared with us after one of our concerts. And Lori, you mentioned, it's crazy, how people come. Well, we had a performance at the Ordway, and we sold out the Ordway in St. Paul, Minnesota in 3 days. In 3 days. And so you hear these singers and they go, we sold out the Ordway. And I thought, yeah, we got to celebrate that. That's amazing. Anyway, after the concert, a volunteer who was singing with a friend, so this was just a gentleman that she was friends with, wrote us a letter and said, before the concert, I actually was really apprehensive about what the point was to bring my friend, with all this hoopla, and you're practicing all this music, and really, is it going to be more stressful for him because I'm getting up on stage and, there are all these unknowns, and, I was really apprehensive about it, but I thought, what, I'll go with it because everyone else seems to think that this concert is really important. This was her first session, by the way. And then she said, but then we got on the stage and I was able to see him look out in the audience to his kids and his grandkids, and I got it. She said, I totally understood why we do these concerts, because this was something that this wonderful man could give back to his family that had been supporting him through this disease, and, be a contributor to their happiness and their joy. And to see that interaction, she said, that was it. I got it. I was sold. And that's so true. The ability, nobody asks people living with Alzheimer's to do things for them. So these concerts are an opportunity for them to say, here you go. Here's a gift that I want to give you. And it's the gift of song, and it's really special. And so I loved that story, because I always say when I go to the concerts, it's equally as important to look at the audience as it is to look at the singers, because it's a relationship, and it's really special. So I love that story. And then the third quick one is we had to switch to Zoom when the pandemic, made us no longer be able to meet in person. And we did it really quickly. So let's just say we decided on like a Tuesday that it was no longer safe for us to rehearse in person. We did not miss a week. By that next week, we were on Zoom. And one of the things that our team said is, how are we going to get people to understand this new software? How are we going to get them to log on? And, we just said, you got to have confidence that if they're connected to this community, they're going to learn, they're going to be adaptable. And they were, and it wowed us. I mean, it was just absolutely shocking how people, we sent out tutorial videos and we did one-on-one phone calls, and we said, okay, what questions do you have? And there was one singer in particular that kind of struggled to get online, but we worked with her and we made sure it was going to work. And, we had someone, teach them how to use an iPad. And then afterwards, I think it was maybe like week 3 of rehearsing on Zoom, she gave me a call and she just said, and she has a great Southern accent. I can't do it. I wouldn't do it justice. But she said, this whole Zoom thing, I just can't even believe it. Giving Voice gave me another gift because now I'm Zooming with my kids. I'm Zooming with my grandkids. And so it was special for me to hear that, because it talks about the trust that our singers have in us. And, they may have said, "Ooh, I don't know about this, singing online on a computer." But they were willing to give it a try because the community that they had created every week coming together and singing was important enough to them. And so I'm glad that we were able to sort of teach them a new skill that could enhance their life during the pandemic. And we're still doing it. We're still rehearsing on Zoom. We're really hopeful that we'll be back in person soon, but until then, we're using what we have. So.
Well, the shift to Zoom, I think, was really important, and that you guys did it as quickly. There, were a lot of others that didn't shift and kept thinking, well, this will pass. We'll just wait a month or 2 months. And, 9 months later, they still hadn't shifted. And like you said, that was so important, because not only did you keep them connected to their community and they could still have their purpose and move forward with their goals, but they learned how to adapt. I had similar stories of, oh my gosh, we can do our book club. We're doing our knitting thing through Zoom now. We're doing, cocktails, it was just everything, prayer groups. It didn't make any difference. Bible clubs, we're all meeting through this. And like you said, it just elevated them. They were just shocked they could do it. And then they were thrilled to teach other people how to do it and share it. And so to me, that was kind of one of the gifts that came through the back door of COVID, was it gave us another way to connect people and empower them. I loved your story about standing up on stage and seeing the family, because not only does it give them the gift of song, but it gives them the gift of their relationship and a positive, joyful memory that so many family and friends are fearful that they've lost or that they're going to lose, because we've been trained to look for the negative and the changes and things. And so to me, that is such a tremendous gift to be able to give people on all sides there. So kudos. As far as, the giving voice, is there anything you're doing differently now or going to do differently in the future? I mean, I know you've converted to Zoom and are probably dying to get back together like everyone else, but it's kind of that whole safety thing. I know with one of my memory cafes, they still have chosen not to get back because they all said, we're going to get another wave. We don't want to go through that shutdown and feel like we're put back in the box. We'd rather stay in the box. We're comfortable here right now. So what are some of your plans and in terms of shifting? Because I know there are others out there that are doing things similar, but you guys seem to have really turned this into a movement.
Well, we're constantly evaluating what we do and how we do it and why we do it. And one of the ways that we constantly evaluate is by really communicating with our singers, because, you said, you mentioned that, you guys were able to switch to Zoom really quickly. And a part of that was because our singers, they told us, we have to stay together. And, I always say, it's their choir. So what they say, we figure out how to do. So we are always, evaluating things through their lens. How is this working? What can we do differently? How do we evolve to make sure that, we're continuing to build a community that's supportive and whatnot. So, some of the things that that we're working on now are around access, diversity, equity, and inclusion. So, I mentioned earlier, we've had the opportunity to work with some diverse communities in the Twin Cities over the last 18 months. And a big part of that powerful work is also sharing that learning back with our singers. So we partnered with a wonderful organization called Centro Tyron Guzman here in Minneapolis, and they were able to put together a virtual chorus that looked a little differently. So their artistic director, played the guitar and lots of other instruments that came from both Central and South America and parts of Mexico, and all of their work was in Spanish, and that program in itself is just inspiring and exciting to see. But also, when you bring that back to our chorus members, they get excited and they say, yeah, so what else are you going to do, Giving Voice? What's the next step? So we're committed to things like taking our toolkit and making sure that it's not only culturally competent, so changing the areas that we need to change to make sure that we're not saying, okay, well, then you get all the hymns together and put them in a book, because that might not be culturally competent for other parts of the country or other diverse communities, but making sure that we can translate it into the appropriate languages. So that's something we're working on now, so that as we continue to evolve this movement, we have materials to provide to say, okay, well, what does your community look like? And then, we have tools that may be able to help you. So there's that layer. And the other big thing for Giving Voice is leveraging our strategic partnerships. So we know that, what we do is inspired by our passion around the work, and our passion for empowering people living with Alzheimer's and their care partners. But we know that there are a lot of people that have a lot more either knowledge or access, or whether it's working with Mayo Clinic Alzheimer's Disease Research Center or Banner Health in Arizona, we know that those strategic partnerships are really the key for us to continue looking at this movement. So asking ourselves questions about how can we evolve what we do, whether it's from we've talked a lot about the research that inspired Giving Voice. Well, now we're ready to help support research. So we're working on, a research project with the University of Victoria, British Columbia, to say, how do we bring the network of courses we have together in a way that you guys are able to actually pull together some significant research, because one course individually may not have the numbers, but if we can leverage our community of choruses, that might have some impact. So really looking at our strategic partnerships and dreaming big. What's the next thing? Because there are so many organizations that are beginning to recognize that living well with Alzheimer's has a place in the work they do. And so we just want to be at the table when they have those conversations. So I think that's a big focus for Giving Voice in 2022 is, building that framework and saying, what relationship building do we need to do to be able to influence some of these decisions? And, and I think just doing a lot of listening and, like I said, having a seat at the table is a big first step.
It would be cool, and maybe you've thought about this, but they do a lot of fundraisers with music, with the big celebrities and stuff. But what would be really cool is to take all of these choirs around the world and with different cultures and set them up and do like a virtual choir highlighting what they can look like and how they can be different. That might be a nice way to expand your exposure and maybe even do some fundraising. And given I said fundraising, I should ask, are you guys a profit or a nonprofit? Do you take donations?
We are a nonprofit. We do take donations. Everything helps support the work we do. And we're also, if you're in not just the Twin Cities area, but really anywhere in the country, we're always looking for people that are inspired by the mission to help support us with their time or their talent. We have a lot of, like I said, wonderful volunteers here in the Twin Cities, but people that say, my church could have a choir like this, or, I'm really involved with this music program at my local university. It's always great when people say, I could maybe figure something out to help. We are here to, take that take that phone call and say, how can we help you? Because that's really the big goal for us, is to be able to provide that technical support and that, that kick that people might need if they think maybe I could do something like this in their community. So we're always looking for that as well.
Well, I love that you do kind of that mentorship. I think that's how like the memory cafes have grown, is, it started and then people just kind of talked about it, and knowing that you can't do everything yourself, and you need all these little soldiers all around. And it's fun to see people get excited and even believe that they can do it. And I don't know if you've run into this when you've mentored, but so often I have heard, like through the memory cafes, I'm just investigating this. I've been told I can't do it because I'm not a nurse. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a social worker. And I'm like, you don't need to be. You just have to have an interest and a passion, and we can make a fit. We can teach you how to facilitate. And I would imagine a voice would help. You wouldn't want me, saying. But that's another point I want to mention with the Giving Voice Choir is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but this is what my mom taught me, was my voice didn't matter. It was really about the joy of the moment. And I've heard care partners who participated, because this is for care partners and people with dementia. And they're like, I'm not the singer. He's the singer. She's the singer, and I want to support. But, and they're like, oh, they drown me out. I don't have to worry. I can still be me and do my thing, and kind of not be overly conscious of people judging me in this, because the goal is really the joy. In terms of the community. Is that correct?
I would 100% agree. The chorus sounds good when we perform, because everyone is there bringing their best. And we also have an extremely talented artistic director, Jeannie Brinley Barnett, who has a lot of experience with the older voice and, with choral programs for older adults. And she is sort of the spiritual guide and artistic director of our choir, and everybody loves her. And she has a saying, there is no wrong in this room. But that just, you come and you bring yourself at, at whatever place you're at, and and the whole group is just accepting. And so yeah, we have some people that have been singing since, as long as they can remember, or had professional, choral experience. And then we have some people who just sing in the shower. And it's the joy that comes across. So it's, they all sound wonderful when we sing together. So
it's not just a giving voice, but it's giving joy from all aspects, and showing up kind of with that being the main goal. And I think that is so powerful. Now, I'm sure some listeners are wondering, is there a cost to this? How does this work? And so can you talk on that?
Yeah. So we have, there's a small registration fee, and it sort of differs around the country in terms of what choir, you're looking at participating in. We partner with McPhail Center for Music, which is a wonderful music school in the Twin Cities area, and they handle kind of all the registration for us. But we have 3 sort of sessions. We have a fall, so that actually will start September 13th for us, and end around the holidays. And we have a spring session, which starts mid-January, and then we have a summer sort of much more relaxed, fun session. The fall and the spring session do culminate in our concert, which I did share is kind of an important part of what we do. And our summer session's a little more celebratory. But we feel that, this is a professional choral experience, in the sense that our artistic director is a trained musical director. She brings a lot of expertise. And so we find that there is just a great sense of commitment when we have it, as something that they register for and they sort of commit to. But it's a nominal registration fee. And, we really look for the duet. So someone living with Alzheimer's and then a care partner, and we have lots of examples of, like I said, husband and wife, mother, daughter. I mean, really, you name it. We have sort of that care partner relationship, which is just wonderful. But we do, ask that that's how people register as a duet. And our session is open. Like I said, it's virtual. So our website has all of that information, but anyone across the country could participate in this next session because we are singing on Zoom.
You know what would be fun? I'll just throw another idea out there for you. Is in the summer, you said you don't do, a concert, but here in Minnesota, especially, and so many other places, around the world, there's concerts in the park that are sponsored all the time, which would be really cool to see, especially in dementia-friendly communities. That could just be a whole nother level of raising awareness and getting them out. I know for some, that might complicate things in terms of if there's mobility issues and things like that. But I just think that that gets you outside just the family and friends that are invited to these concerts, and a little broader base with that. So I don't know. That's just how my mind works. I spit it out when it comes.
That sounds fabulous. I mean, the idea to get, especially coming off of this challenging, 18 months that we've had, just getting people outside would be wonderful. And like you said, it creates awareness. Let's say you're at a beautiful, park pavilion, and there's a lot of people that might be able to experience the joy in the singing who otherwise wouldn't have heard about it. So that's a great idea.
Yeah. Well, and I think of even just sports games and what happens in the summer. I mean, people are still doing hockey, and there's still tournaments and things like that. And so many have family members that are involved in different things like that too. It could just be a really fun thing. What kind of effect do you think Maude's Awards is going to have, on giving voice, and where do you go from here?
Well, I mean, we are just absolutely honored to be one of the recipients, and I think that there are, many ways in which, our work will be impacted. I mean, first, to be in the company of not only the recipients of this year's award, which is amazing. So, Giving Voice being an organization that is, more founded in the arts, it's amazing for us to be able to, share the stage with people that are doing research and different work that just really, broadens sort of, where Giving Voice belongs. So, just being a part of that group is really amazing. And I don't know if Marilyn mentioned this, but they put together a book which has not only the award recipients, but the applicants and the information on their programs, which is just hugely beneficial to these organizations that are just trying to, get more exposure and get the word out of what they're doing. So being able to be a part of that is also really huge for Giving Voice. And I think it really opens doors for us to, achieve one of the goals that I mentioned earlier, which is about how we view our strategic partners in the future, because, more awareness means, more opportunity to make those connections. So I think for us, that's wonderful. The other thing is just the movement itself. So Maude's Awards is based in the Pacific Northwest, which is an area that, Giving Voice is not as predominant as other parts of the country. We have kind of pockets in Texas and Arizona and the East Coast. And so I think that there's huge potential for the visibility there in that area of the country to help us launch some Giving Voice inspired choruses as well. So I think that, our work is really going to be dramatically influenced by, receiving this award. And we're just really, really grateful.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for your time. Eileen, I wanted to say if people want to get in touch with you, they can just go to your website.
givingvoicechorus.org. There is a lot of information there. And if there are any questions, that there's a little form on the first page that you can send, and it actually goes right to me. So I'd be happy to answer any questions that people have.
Okay, sounds great. And Marilyn, if people want to learn more about Maude's Awards, they can just go to maudesawards.org.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Wonderful. And then last, Marilyn, did you want to mention the other winners?
The winners are Giving Voice Initiative and Opening Minds Through Arts at Scripps Gerontology, Duet partners in health and aging.
Wonderful. Well, thank you both so much. Appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
Thank
so much.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.